Welcome to another episode of Unmute Your Mind, the podcast. Today I have Jeff Prinz with me, who is a high school friend. We went to high school together.
Yes, we
So
did.
I am so happy you reached out to be a part of the podcast. So real quick, tonight we're talking about something a lot of people don't realize they carry, and that is the mindset of always competing. Not just on the field, but in friendships, in relationships, and in everyday life. Because what happens when you've been trained your whole life to win, but no one ever taught you how to just be, right?
Exactly.
All right. So what made you reach out to me to be on the podcast? Let's start there.
Well, one, let's this has been on my mind for a while. Of just, as we made transitions through high school to college to post college and then into life with other endeavors in life with family and friends, relationships. And as I realized in the last couple of years, I kind of had to take a back seat or change direction into my careers, athletically, professionally, and things like that. And it was one of those moves where I said, you know what, physically, my body's making some changes. I need to go do something else. And then I realized in the moment in those friendships and relationships that I was bringing that additional insights from those previous times and seasons that I had from all the way from grade school to current day.
Okay. So you just needed to get it off your chest.
Yes, exactly.
So my first question, this section I am deeming identity and roots. So at what point did competition become a part of who you are, not just something you did?
I would say it was in our freshman year in high school. I had that season after at the team awards banquet, I had won the hardest lifter award.
Okay.
For wrestling. And I think in that moment I said, okay, like I'm getting recognized by my peers. And then I had a family member that was still competing at the time in Division II athletics in the NCAA, and then would go on to Aurora University and become a two-time All-American. So from that 2001 to 2004 time period, I had always been around next level education and athletics. So that kind of was kind of the feeding point for many of those things to kind of go, hey, I know how to do this now, but now I'm also surrounded by this different exposure of next level learning and education. And how do I get there? Well, I'm going to get there by watching them perform at the next level during the summertime and as they get ready for competition.
Okay, so that's almost like it's bringing me like football, basketball to where you're training, you're watching videos, you're just embedding that all into your mind. That's all you're thinking about.
Correct.
Okay, wonderful. So what did winning mean to you growing up?
Winning for me was, at the time, it was to be a college athlete. So I had, all the way from youth wrestling days to the high school days, it was about wanting to go to the next level. And then when I saw my peers who came in from those other sites in college, they'd come and visit us as an alumni, and I'd be like, that's what I want to go do. So that kind of was, again, that driving force to say, I want to go do that.
Okay. So did you ever feel like your value was tied to performance?
When it came to the weight room, yes, because that was, again, a place and a arena that I could excel in, where I was also getting recognized for that upper body strength and being in a team sport, and also just being around everyone during the fall. I had friends who played football, and then winter for wrestling, and then springtime for baseball. So I was always around it. So it was always something that was like, this is what I'm gonna do the next four years while I'm in high school. I'm gonna participate in wrestling. I'm gonna be involved with the high school baseball team, and then my senior year, I was part of the football team as their camera guy. So
okay, so you stayed around competition.
Yes, I did.
So, who were you outside of sports, or did that feel unclear?
Well, kind of going back to the high school years, my freshman year in high school, I was in the theater. So I liked the performing arts side of it in theater due to being a fan of professional wrestling. So those things were I had that other avenue of entertainment that I wanted to do. So I was learning how to act in entertainment, and then I could go and pursue the student athlete endeavors during the season.
Okay, so wrestling. So you said baseball, wrestling, and the camera guy for football, and that was in high school. So then, when you get to college, what are you doing?
In college, I was part of the wrestling program for 5 years, the UW Whitewater wrestling program for 5 years, and then I was part of the powerlifting team for 2 years.
Okay, so is that when weightlifting became competitive? Is college?
It was a hobby.
Oh, it was a hobby. Okay.
It became a hobby because wrestling was still on the forefront of my social life and my student athlete endeavors while pursuing an education.
Okay. All right. So next is a section that I want to call like when competition follows you. So when did you realize that your competitive mindset didn't turn off?
It happens all the time, and I'll give you a real-time example. So probably last 2 weekends ago, my girlfriend and I, we went before we went out and enjoyed Madison. I decided, hey, I'm going to go get a workout in before we go to the theater or we go out to eat. Okay. So that mantra, that daily routine of before we do something, let me go make sure that I can enjoy the riches of life before I go and indulge in it. And that was just something that was part of my life from high school, even through college. Was just, let's go get it done first, and then I can go have fun.
Gotcha. Okay. So how has that shown up? Well, you kind of just told me how that's shown up in your friendships and your relationships. You got to do that first, then go off and do it.
Yep.
So how does that translate, the cool thing, like, how do they feel about it?
The cool thing is my girlfriend, she's accepted it and she understands that. Again, that's part of being hyper competitive. Those energy tasks of doing those daily routines, but also understanding again that that's just part of what I've done for, from those previous seasons of how I got from there to into that friendship and relationship with her.
Okay, so it's a lot of compromise. So was the compromise more on her end, or do you compromise sometimes?
I definitely compromise.
Okay.
And that's from me being a fan of Tom Brady and listening to what he talks about, and taking those different, knowing how to turn down the juice. And there are days that you can bring the juice, but there are days that you need to turn down the juice because you need to look at the entire scope of what's going on.
Right.
You can have fun in what you're doing, but also realize that was a time and place for that moment. Now you're in a different season of life to where you can take a step back and you can relax a little bit. Okay. And then when you have that free time, that's kind of how I got into tandem skydiving. That's kind of how all that kind of happened the last past 5 years of how I got into that.
So it seems like you always have to have some sort of thrill.
Correct.
Why do you think that is? Is it because you've been so competitive for a while and you're switching into these different seasons, or?
I think it goes back to when I was coaching youth wrestling, and one of my favorite movies is Hardball. And in the movie Hardball, they go to Wrigley Field and they talk about if you're going to get it played right, you got to go watch and see it play done right. And I think, from many of us that are listening and you have those different exposures in life, when you're able to see those things, those types of things continue on in your life. So it's going to theaters, it's going to movies, it's going to different events to provide the person you're with, or their children, or your own children. Those different things that are so unique and special in the moment, because those are the things that they're going to remember more than what they had for breakfast or what they had on the ride home.
Okay. All right. So have you ever found yourself comparing instead of connecting?
100%. I would say, probably when I was in the last 2 months of when I was on that trying to be Mr. Health and Fitness contest for Muscle and Fitness magazine again.
Mm-hmm.
And since this was year 5 for me, again, it's easy to compare the apples and the oranges because of what's out there.
Right.
And you know that you're in a variety of people, and you don't know who's in your group, but you know that this is still one of the best out there to be recognized by Muscle and Fitness magazine.
Okay. All right. So do you struggle with vulnerability because it feels like losing?
I think the vulnerability is realizing again that life is about sharing life with someone versus always trying to compete and win. And that kind of goes back to, early. I mean, when you're in your competition days and you're going through it, it's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you take a step away, or you become a coach, or you do different things, and now that I'm semi-retired, I tell myself that you never know when I could go back on the mat. But the last 3 to 4 different seasons of my life of coaching, I after having some conversations about having left reconstruction hip surgery and things like that, and being like, you know what, that's not in the works at this time, but now I need to take a step back and do something else. And I also realized in that moment, I was lucky enough in my 20s and early 30s to get those awards, to kind of be able to go, hey, it's okay to... You got your roses. Now it's time to go do something else. And that's why, going back to that Tom Brady thing and understanding what that's about. And it's again, it's okay to bring that juice, but sometimes you got to turn down the juice. And those are the things that I, just by listening to him and listening to former friends that were athletes, or even people in the podcast realm, of when it's time, or even like what Michael Jordan just talked about with NASCAR. He misses basketball, but at the same time, he uses NASCAR as a different endeavor to still get that competitive juices in what he's doing now.
Okay, and I never really seen it that way. As we get older, because we're getting older. So it's like, as we get older, those seasons of life, like you said, like I used to be a cheerleader dancer. Yeah, don't ask me to do none of that now, because my body is not going to allow me to do any of it anymore. So it's like you said, you got to find different avenues to go down to still get that same feeling that you had then. I never seen it that way, so thank you for that. So next, relationships and love. So how has being hyper competitive affected any relationships you may have had?
I think it goes back to, again, having those different exposures from what you did as in those seasons of life in athletics. So, for example, if it was for you in those times of dance and other things, and you got to travel different places. So, and then even for myself, being able to travel in college and go different places. And then when you're talking with someone and they talk about, well, I can't do this, or some, so-and-so doesn't do this, but in your mind, you're like, just get in the vehicle and go,
Right.
And I think in those moments when we had those opportunities to do that, you're in tunnel vision in the moment. You're just getting on the bus and you're going.
Right.
And then you're thinking about everything else, and then you're just kind of like, well, when we get there, we'll get food, we'll go do this. But then you realize, as these years go on, how unique and special that was, because you got to travel, you got to do all these things. And that's why, I understand it more now too, because just with different friendships and relationships, not everybody gets to go through that season of being able to travel 10 months out of a year.
Right. So is your relationship now different from relationships you had when you were in that competitive realm and like that's all you did was compete?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Because back then it was still about being a social butterfly and being out in the moment. A lot of my peers at that time, they were still competing. We were all competing at a high level and doing the best that we could. So that was our camaraderie. That was part of that fraternity and sorority of people at the time. And now
Right.
being with someone that is the complete opposite of me, which is good.
Yeah.
Because again, I think it goes back to being able to put those brakes on in life sometimes, and understanding that again, I was able to take those intrinsic traits to go, okay, I'm gonna be driven, I'm gonna be ambitious. But then when you meet someone and other people in general that are not competitive, or it's just like, you know what, I don't want to go work out 4 days a week. I don't want to do that. And that's okay.
Right.
And I think in those times of those seasons, you're just ingrained in it because that was part of my life. It was workout, team practices every day and team workouts 3 times a day or 3 times a week. And then we're traveling every weekend. And then when we get to the duel, or the tournament, it was like wake up and then go work out that morning before
Right.
competition. Or when we were coaching, it was wake up, go work out, and then go coach. So those experiences, continue to, were kind of a foreshadow for what's happening or what happened like I said, 2 weeks ago of before I went out and enjoyed Madison, I had to go work out.
Right. Right. Okay. So, do you find it hard to lose arguments or just let things go?
Right now, it's not really about having arguments or anything. It's just realizing when to take a step back and just say, you know what, it's not worth it. Because again, it's what everybody wants, and that's why I have that in my my picture with my girlfriend in my background. Again, it's life's about sharing life with somebody. That to me, that's Tom Brady talks about it. Tim Tebow talks about it. A lot of people talk about it. Dale Jr. talked about it. You can, when you get out of that vehicle and you do other things, you're coming home to somebody.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Your kids are important to you, right? Those are, and again, like we said, is your days of dance and cheerleading. Like it's fun. Like they could wake up and say, "Hey, I want to go do that." But being able to share life with them and take them to a cheerleading event, or share, or take them to a friend's event that we have from our high school days. That's what they want to see.
Right.
And they might see your picture and say, "Hey, that's great," and then they'll be like, "Who is that?" And they don't know. They don't know it's you.
Right.
That's what's important.
Yeah.
And that's why even my awards, they're like in a box. They're in a box in another room. Like my state title's in a box. My undergraduate degree's in a box. It's putting it on the wall. I guess it's cool, but at the same time, it's not. It was one, a quarter of my life. I'd say.
It was a moment.
Yep.
It was a moment. So, what has your girlfriend helped you realize about yourself?
I would probably be just to shut up and just not everything has to be black and gray. And what I mean by that is when you're in that tunnel vision, that's what you're seeing in the trees. You're just going. And I think, when you have those peaks sometimes and you're being consistent, but then certain things on the wayside are not being as consistent as you are in the moment. Again, that's when you have to kind of take a step back and say, you know what, again, I get to share life with somebody versus being like, oh, I need to go get a workout in tomorrow, or I need to do this or do that. It was one thing in my competition days when I was competing and doing those things. But since I'm in my post Tom Brady of life, I can take 2 days off. I can take 3 days off, and I can come back the next day and go, hey, let's go in for a half-hour workout, and it's not a big deal.
Okay.
And that's why with tandem skydiving, it's like getting a tattoo. Now that I've done it 6 times, it's like, well, number 7 is in the near future at this point.
Okay. So now we're going to go into self-awareness and unlearning. So when did you realize this mindset of the hyper-competitive mindset might be hurting you more than helping you?
I would say when you are in friendships and relationships that involve more than yourself. So for example, is, when your partner, significant other, or whoever, and they have children or they have other things that are on the plate, you can't tell yourself, well, when I was 20, I was doing this. Why aren't they doing this at 21, 22, and so forth? Because again, it's a different time and it's a different setting at the table. And that's when you realize, again, many of us, we were very fortunate to be in the environment that we got to be in, which, and I think before I got on here, I was thinking about our friends from high school. And and you and I, many of us, many of them from that class, we got to see excel at different levels in life.
Right.
Professionally, academically, athletically. And when you're around it, or before we were able to all see it before they hit the big time, before these other things. So we were part of that beginning stage point. And then when they took off, it was like, yeah, I was already there. I was hanging out with them at that house before they were hitting, 3-pointers and all these things. And, going on that point is when you get to that exposure with our friends or even different accolades and people, there's everyday people. And I think that's the thing that I learned from, working those wrestling camps and coaching at a high level in my 20s. Once you reach that point, you're like, okay, I did it. Now what do I do?
Right. Like, what's next?
Yep.
So how do you separate who you are from what you've been trained to be?
I think how I train myself now is, again, just thinking back of and being appreciative of the past season that I got to do. Because now I get to look forward to that new season of life of going on a new adventure, doing different things, traveling, going to different movies, going to different random things that I want to go do. So it isn't always about before being like, oh, I need to get ready for this tournament. I need to get ready for this duel. I need to get ready for this competition with this team. Now I can kind of pick and choose when I want to go.
Right.
If I want to go watch a team tournament, hey, I'll go watch it. If I want to go enjoy, go to the alumni event that's once a year, hey, I'll do that, And then I get to enjoy that moment and go, hey, I got to live through it for 5 years, but now I get to enjoy my flowers as an alumni.
Exactly. So this is a good question. What does healthy masculinity or emotional balance look like for you now?
I would say it's about caring about who you're with and understanding, again, it's who you want, who you're sharing your life with. Because that's, and also going on that is, again, there's no blame game to nothing.
Right.
Because when we use that in context of being hyper competitive, when you were out cheerleading, or if I was on the mat and I lost, I had to take accountability for it. There wasn't nobody to say, oh, there was somebody else out there. No, that was me.
Right.
Or when I was in my powerlifting days of bench pressing, that was me who lost. So those things in friendships and relationships get brought to the table to have that no blame game, which makes things much easier for both parties involved, or whoever's involved, because there's ownership to it.
Right. So now we're going to go into reflection and advice. So what would you say to someone who feels like they always have to win, even in relationships?
I would say if you don't want to share life with someone, then leave the table. And if you want to just focus on yourself and do those things, go ahead and go do it. Tony Robbins talks about it. Gary Vee talks about it. You got to get selfish first before you can get selfless. So that kind of goes back to my hyper competitive days. I was very selfish to get to that point to be selfless now.
Okay.
And I 100% say that because in my 20s I was 100% selfish on a lot of things. When it came to how I was gonna, what I was doing, when I had those opportunities to coach at a high level, that was all me. There was nobody helping me get there. There was nothing that, and at that time, again, I'm learning from the best in Division 1, 2, and 3 Olympic caliber coaches and things like that. That was my glass ceiling per se. And then, post that time and winning different championships with different schools and things like that. That, again, that was me being selfish in the moment because I knew what I was doing when I signed up to go to that school.
Gotcha. Okay. So how do you learn to rest instead of compete?
How do I learn to rest?
Yeah.
It's I tell myself I'm retired. That's what I do. And that's why I find different interests of what I'm doing. So whether it's skydiving or doing different things or artwork or going to different things around the state of Wisconsin or wherever, it's just to do different things, to take my mind away from telling myself, I can do it one more time. Realistically, I don't have that ambition to go to practices anymore. But, I can go hang out at a competition. I did that. It's fun. But the daily want to go to practices, do all those things, it's not in me anymore. And I think some of that goes back to I chased those awards for so many years. And then once I got them, and now that they're engraved in the WI record books forever, where else do I go?
Gotcha.
Or in my 20s and most of my 20s to go coach with one of the best wrestling programs ever. What do you do next? When I'm still part of that fraternity and sorority of people that were on that coaching staff or are still on that coaching staff. So I can always return back to it. And that's why I'm okay with being semi-retired. Because I can always go back and coach wherever it is. I can always tell myself, hey, I can go back out there and be a consultant or be a cheerleader for like a half hour and then dip out.
Exactly. So last question, somewhat. What does peace look like for you now?
Peace has stability in it. Now, what that stability involves, for in general, could mean having a full-time job. It could mean having benefits. It could mean having food on the table. It could mean sharing life with someone. It could mean all those things. And for me, it's having all those things. It's having somebody to share life with. It's having a full-time job. It's having benefits. It's having things that, in our early teens and 20s, that's what you're striving for. To have those professional endeavors, what's next.
Right.
And to, again, appreciate the times that we got to do in college and have that social life and to do those things. But also, again, to realize not many people get to do that. And I think that's where a lot of us, where again we get humbled in many ways, because when you're around it, and it's not, sometimes for many of us it wasn't even an expectation. It was just like, that's what I'm gonna go do because that's where so and so was going. That's what we're doing next. And then you realize when you get out of the bigger picture, you go, yeah, not everybody was gonna go do that. We were just all in that same circle that we got to do that.
Right.
And I think that's what we got to see at our 20-year high school reunion.
Yeah.
Is you get to appreciate that we all kind of had that nucleus of where we were going to go, but then we get to see what happened afterwards and things like that.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's how I kind of see my life now, and
Okay.
how I'm way more, chill and not as intense. But I know that there's probably people that are going to watch this later on who will tell you that when I was coaching them or coaching their youth of America, I was intense, or when I was working at various things as a program coordinator and things like that. They know that Mr. Jeff was probably super intense, but it was all in fun. So it was
right. All in seeing them go. It's their turn now to go somewhere. So it's all in seeing them grow now.
Correct.
Yeah. So is there anything else you would like to unmute on while I have you?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on this podcast.
You are so welcome.
And I was sharing with my girlfriend before, you were there during those times of my seasons of life, and you saw me take many of those losses, and we were in different social circles. It was tough. You take some of those losses like that, and then moving forward, and you have these wins. It was good to know that there was some, I could talk to someone. I was talking to someone that was there in the moment, who was on the sideline seeing me go through those things with other friends and people and things like that. So it wasn't like, oh, what, were you in the arena at the time? Maybe you were, but or even, when you were, walking through the weight room or whatever, I know for a fact there were many people watching me in those times.
Oh, yeah. And, amazed sometimes, like, how is he doing that?
Exactly. So, and that's that kind of goes back to a lot of things here as we, is getting that, not after, it was more of just kind of, again, you're getting that you're getting that appreciation from people. That validation, that's the word I was looking for. You're getting that validation from people because you're feeding off it. So I think in those moments, again, I'm feeding off of people's energy because they're seeing me in the weight room, and it's like, oh, look at Jeff, he's super strong, he's doing all those pull-ups, he's doing all those things, right? So again, I'm like, in the moment at the time, it's like, hey, cool, they're watching me do that, so now I can go do one more, and I can get a free shirt from the Army and the Navy and everybody that was there. Or let me do 20 push-ups so I can get another free shirt from the Army or something like that at the time. So yeah, getting that peer approval, or chasing those selective dreams that I had,
right,
was just because, and I think also, for where we grew up, my way of getting out of there was chasing those dreams to get out.
Gotcha.
That's as real as I can get.
Okay.
Like
makes sense.
I'm proud of where I grew up, but at the same time, I knew that, having those friends that would come back as alumni and things like that, that's why I wanted to go do, because if they could get out and go do other things, that's what I wanted to go do. And we both got to see our friends do that.
Yes, we did.
And yeah, I mean, it's still happening today. We got friends out there that are in music and doing different things and things like that, and we all came from the city.
Right. Good old Beloit.
Exactly.
Good old Beloit. Well, Jeff, I do want to thank you for reaching out to me. I I know I had put a call out for guests and I had topics, but I was happy that you reached out and had a different topic and you wanted to unmute. So I'm like, this is different. I love it. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it because I'm like, anybody that wants to unmute, come on at this point. Because, yeah, that's what this is for. This is about mental health and being aware and trying to do better. And like I said, wanting to get it off your chest at the end of the day so you can leave it here and you don't have to think about it no more.
Well,
You know?
I think this has been on my mind for a while, and then when
Yeah.
I had the platform and I had somebody that was just reaching out, I kind of just I went for it, and I think some of it too is again when we're, as March Madness is here.
Yeah.
I think that kind of sparks interest, for anybody. So again, as you're watching these student athletes compete, you can kind of take yourself back for a quick second and remember what they're playing for and the excitement that they're in.
Exactly.
And that's kind of probably why I wanted to do it. I remember those times.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's great to see that what they're doing. But again, it's good to again remember how things kind of can't happen full circle. So it's
right. Good to talk about it. Alrighty, so closing up here, everyone. So I think a lot of us don't realize how our past conditioning shows up in love, life, professional, whatever it is. So sometimes we're not just trying to hurt people, we're just operating the only way we were taught. So the way I end my podcast is with the unmute prompt. So tonight's unmute prompt is, where in life am I still competing and when should I be connecting? And what would it look like to choose peace over proving something? So that's the prompt for tonight. I like to do the unmute prompts because it leaves people with a question for them to answer and for them to journal later. So yes, that's the unmute prompt. And as always, this has been Unmute Your Mind. Unmute, speak, and live. Thank you
yes,
again,
indeed.
Jeff.